a game on Barry Smith's Jundwalker's deck.
This was a matchup, you know, again, that I thought would be really positive for Mono Blue Devotion. And Barry's list, of course, a little bit on the slower side compared to your typical build of Jund monsters, let's say. And so cards like Negate, which are sometimes good, sometimes bad against Jund monsters, are going to be excellent against Barry's list.
Well, we have quite a match going on here. This has gone late enough where I'm not sure Mono Blue's favored anymore. Master of Waves just got knocked out by none other than Garruk Apex Predator. So this is my first time seeing in action. I know we had him in action one time yesterday. And this card, yeah, it's 7 mana, but it packs quite the punch here. You see there, where his -3, destroy creature and gaining life equal to its toughness. That's just one of his abilities. Murders other planeswalkers, that doesn't matter in this matchup, but the fact that he, not only does he make beasts, like, he has the +1 of Garruk Primal Hunter, but the beasts have Death Touch because they're evil beasts, they're black ones.
I think Garruk is probably slightly less powerful in play than Karn, once Karn's in play. And Garruk is a little bit harder to cast than Karn, obviously, but a card can be not quite as good as Karn and still totally awesome once it's actually in play.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're going to go back over here. So breaking it down, Will's board is a Satyr token, 2 Sylvan Caryatids, a Death Touch Beast token, and that Garruk, whereas Will just has a Thassa left right now. Will take a chance with Mutavault to knock Garruk down to 1. But remember, that making a Death Touch Beast, that's a plus ability. So unless you get Garruk off the table, he's going to continue to make an army.
And now Barry's entering the point where he can even just win the damage race with the tokens he's generating.
And makes another Death Touch Beast, uses the Satyr that was presumably from a Xenagos that was in play earlier. And that Beast just swinging for 5. Now the game ties up at 11. Will, if he wants to spend 4 more mana next turn, will have the option of getting rid of that Garruk. He can unblockable a Mutavault through, which is what he did last turn.
But now the race is just shifting over into Barry's favor with these kind of exchanges.
Right, Will would need something almost like Cyclonic Rift, I think, to reset the race.
And draw step to draw step, Barry's deck is a lot better in this spot, of course.
Yeah, I mean, Mono Blue Devotion, don't be fooled by the number of islands. It is still an aggro deck. You know, the turn number is way too late to think that the aggro deck's a really big favorite.
And that even assumes that Cyclonic Rift is still a card that's in Will's list, which is possibly moved away from. You know, when you're grinding through all of this sort of removal, and if Barry wins the game, it's probably by killing all of your non-land permanents. It's not clear if you would even want Cyclonic Rift in your deck.
And we'll see here where we're at. Will is going to untap here. So see if he first of all starts out by killing the Apex Predator.
Feels like that's got to be the first order of business before.
Yeah, I don't think you can win with that thing in play. +1 making a 3/3 is pretty good. Yeah, he's going to spend 4 mana to unblockable the Mutavault through at the Garruk. Question is, does Barry have a kill spell for it? Oh, and that would be something.
Ugh.
He has Devoured Flesh. That's so bad for Will.
It does look like Will has brought in his Cyclonic Rift, or at least has one in hand.
Yeah, I mean, the question is did Will have another creature in hand? Could have he stopped this from happening? He has a Cyclonic Rift, and I want to think his last card is a 1 of Military Intelligence that he has. That's going to be no help here. Military Intelligence is a 2-mana enchantment. If you attacked with 2 creatures this turn, you draw a card. He's put it in place of what is usually a Bident of Thassa in that spot.
Tomohiro Saito posted a really awesome mono blue beatdown list with 4 copies of Military Intelligence as he's like continuing to post standard lists and so forth, with Ornithopter as one of the hits. Oh yeah.
Are we in soul artifacting these Ornithopters?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Illusory Drake. Oh yeah.
This is.
It's the Ornithopter deck.
Illusory Angel? Or
whatever the 4/4 for 3. Yeah,
yeah.
Angel.
And now Garruk continues to make Death Touch Beasts, and I don't know. Barry has Will has a Cyclonic Rift, but that won't be much help. Barry will just get to recast the Planeswalker. As creatures knock Will down to 5, and possibly to his last turn. We'll see if he has anything he can do here.
Yeah, Rift is at best a one-turn reprieve, but no long-term solution to any of this.
Well, it may be a 2-turn reprieve because Barry can't recast the Garrick right away without help of Caryatids. So he would get an additional turn. Now, he'd have to do something pretty good with that turn. And he does have the 7th island, so Cyclonic Rift pretty much locked into playing that. Let's see, well, Barry's gonna probably just swing for lethal.
Seems like a pretty safe place to start the turn.
Yeah, all right. I mean, he's got to know that Cyclonic Rift is pretty much it. And there we go, overloaded Cyclonic Rift. All the tokens go away, cards go back to Barry's hand. Does he have the 7th land? That's a pretty big question here.
No, but it looks like he has a reasonable amount of stuff to fire back with.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't mean, because he didn't have the 7th land, that doesn't mean Will's ahead by any stretch of the imagination. It means that he's not immediately dead.
Yeah.
He's got a shot.
Barry's hand, you know, he has an Abrupt Decay and a Courser beyond the cards just got returned to his hand, so he's got a lot to work with.
Will down to just 1 card. But he does have Thassa, so his draws are he has some amount of control over his draws. Courser of Krufix into play. And it shows a Blood Crypt off the top. Barry plays, goes up to 10. And Devour Flesh will be his next draw.
So Erker can buy himself a little bit of time, as you just mentioned, but there's no long-term plan here just yet.
Remember, the winner of this will go on to face Scott Lipp, who's been playing green-white aggro. We just saw him defeat Nick Marriott in the other semifinal. We'll see here, Cyclonic Rift and Island appear to be the cards in Will's hand. So he has yet another fog effect with the Cyclonic Rift. But the biggest issue is that Barry's hand is what? Devour Flesh, Abrupt Decay, and soon to be Mizium Mortars. So even if, you know, Will can bounce things, but he's not making any traction. He's not getting anywhere.
I mean, there's some hope with Master of Waves that he can kind of claw back in.
Yeah, I mean, there's still the issue that he plays Master and Barry can Mizium Mortars everything but the 2/1. And at that point, Master can't break through Caryatids, so it's still tough.
Yeah, there's
nothing unblockable through, I suppose.
There's nothing else that really allows Will to, you know, break serve is the issue. Any of his other random creatures just die. They're just, you know, one-for-one trades.
Yeah.
So.
And Caryatid made.
Yeah, I'm curious about Cyclonic Rift in this matchup. I can kind of see it playing both ways, where it's awesome against some of Barry's slower draws, but not great in a game like this where Barry's focused on just killing everything you put into play.
Right, it's not a threat. So it is just, in a game where time doesn't matter, the card is just card disadvantage.
And it's also forcing you to scry more lands with Thassa too, if you want to get to the overload.
Yeah, 8th island for Will. And it looks like Barry's just content hitting away with Courser for a bit and leaving up tons of removal spells, which I kind of like here.
Yeah.
He's going to put Will down to 1 with that Courser. And it looks like he's going to force Will to burn Cyclonic Rift on Courser of Krufix.
Yeah, Barry is aware that there's a lot of counter spells in Will's list, you know? There's these negates and these dissolves and so forth. No real rush to do anything. I like Barry just pumping the brakes.
All right, goes ahead and looks like passes back, and we'll see what Will can do. He has a scry to work with. Can he find something he needs to? He's at 1, so that Courser is lethal. I have to think we're gonna be on to a game 3. It has that look to it. Will making a fight out of it.
But just given the quality of Barry's hand, I don't know what the long-term solution is here.
Right. He has him covered too many ways over.
That's dead.
Yeah, Night Veil Spectre. Well, I wonder if he has a kill spell.
Are you tapping mana on your own turn? That's dead.
Barry gets to choose which way to kill that card. He's going to go for Abrupt Decay. Untaps is going to force the Cyclonic Rift from Will's hand, so he draws a Caryatid. You see a Hero's Downfall on top. Just more kill spells. And Will could bounce it, or he could just scoop. And he's going to go ahead and do the latter. He doesn't want to show these boarded in the second Rift, I guess, which I like. It's the odds that he wins after bouncing that seem about 0.
Yeah, pretty close. I mean, he knows just from enough of the draw steps that he's seen Barry have over the course of the Corsair Crew Fix that he doesn't have a shot in that scenario. There's a Mizium Mortars, there's a downfall on top of the deck, so not even Master of Waves means anything. Assuming Will did not bring in Domestication, which would surprise me, there's really nothing he's drawing to at that point.
Yeah, the only thing to domesticate is that Corsair of Crew Fix. I don't think you'd bring bringing it in.
No, I don't think so either.
Looking at the player's sideboard, they already are sideboarded here. We do see in Will's deck he has a decent amount of counter spells. We saw some negates in the graveyard there. He has brought those in for the Planeswalkers in Barry's deck. He brought in the second Cyclonic Rift, it looks like. Perhaps he could bring in, I'm not sure if he has like some Dissolves maybe okay as well.
Dissolve and Negate seem like the best cards in this matchup. If I'm in Will's spot, all I want to do is get out in front on the board and then counter the couple relevant cards that Barry casts over the course of the game. To that end, I also like Rapid Hyperization. It's not the most efficient thing at fighting over removal spells, but still just another tempo play.
Well, if you want to fight over removal, Dispel actually isn't the worst thing you could do. If you look at, there's a fair amount of instant speed removal. You could snag, I guess it's just a Golgari Charm and a Hero's Downfall, so maybe that's not actually good enough.
And Rapid Hybridization works against all those cards and also provides utility against things like Vraska or Garrett getting activated.
Yeah, Rapid Hybridization may be, I wouldn't be opposed to having that.
But I would probably try to get away from this Cyclonic Rift action here.
Yeah, on Barry's side, I imagine he just continues to board how he boarded in the first round as well. If Barry wins this tournament, he'll go up against 3 consecutive aggro decks. I think each time he's just becoming an all-removal Jund-style deck. You look at his board, he does have cards like Thoughtseize and Stormbreath Dragon, but I don't think they're for this kind of matchup.
No, I think it's just more removal. That's all this is. Devour Flushes, Putrefy, maybe the Golgari Charm as well, maybe enough targets. Get Master of Waves, and there's some stray enchantments in Will's list as well. But I think Barry basically needs to keep his game 1 game plan intact because nothing else in the sideboard offers much help.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us this morning, welcome. We're doing the semifinals right now of the Star City Games Standard Open in Kansas City, Missouri. Started the top 8 this morning. We had on camera, we saw Barry Smith last round defeat Dustin Grorud in the top 8. Other winners, we had Nick Marriott, Scott Lipp, Will Erker. Scott Lipp then defeated Marriott, so with green-white, he's awaiting the winners in the final. Remember, Lipp was one of the players to double draw in. The other one was Will Erker, so we may see both the undefeated players on the tournament meeting again in the finals if Will takes this one down. Barry Smith, however, has other plans. He's playing a Jund Planeswalkers deck with 10 Planeswalkers in it.
And quite the selection of Planeswalkers, too.
Quite the selection of Planeswalkers.
A real motley crew.
Five different walkers in the deck.
A rogues gallery.
I like the one Liliana Vest. I've always liked playing one Liliana Vest in decks, even though, you know, it's not that powerful of a card, but it's really a fun one.
Well, any game that slows down, it's going to be incredible in.
Yeah, it just keeps finding more threats, which is really nice.
And it's hard to kill. I mean, that's a lot of loyalty to get through.
Yeah, she starts out with 5 loyalty at 5 mana.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
especially since your deck that's likely to play Liliana is probably supplementing it with removal spells along the way.
Yeah, she's pretty efficient. On the other hand, this is a matchup where we have game 3. Will is back on the play. I think it's going to be hard for Barry to win a game 3. There's a lot of speed that's possible out of the mono blue deck.
Yeah, Will's best draws are really hard for Barry to answer. I mean, just a solid curve with a counterspell or a trick or something. Barry's not that well equipped to handle it. But if Will's draw is on the slower side, if he's trying to go longer, you know, be able to slog through the removal spells, he doesn't come out of the gates fast, I think Barry's got a really good shot.
Yeah, so going back to cards, like how important is a card like Military Intelligence or Biden of Thassa in this kind of matchup?
They feel good to me. Barry actually doesn't have all the removal in the world. He's got a fair bit, but he's trying to grind value out of Planeswalkers. That's ultimately his plan. So Will's likely to keep a stray creature or two in play, and being able to draw a couple extra cards over the course of the game could be a big deal. I wouldn't want to go so far as to play something like Jace. I think that's too slow and kind of plays into Barry's game plan too much, but I think those kind of cards could be effective.
All right, so we are underway with game 3 here. This is the last game of the top 4. We're going to decide who will go on to face green-white in the finals. Will Erker on the play quickly sends back for another 6. And it looks like Barry is content keeping 7.
Been cool to see Barry's deck in action here. It's pretty outside the box. I mean, Planeswalker control decks we've seen, you know, various stripes over the last couple of years, but
yeah, we generally see in standard right now, we see Junkwalkers and Bantwalkers as I think the go-to Planeswalker decks. I mean, we've even seen Esper Walkers, but Jund is one I have not seen as much.
And what's cool about it is it's not even like these Planeswalkers are the highest in raw power. It's not like these are all Jace the Mindscolders and Elspeths too. Liliana Vest, Vraska, Garruk, these are Planeswalkers that did not receive a lot of love when they got printed by the tournament crowd.
Yeah, like Vraska's certainly not that powerful of a card. Yeah, Vraska, Liliana. Yeah, you're right. These are, they feel a lot more like kill spells than Planeswalkers sometimes. And looks like Will is keeping on 6. And we are underway. Will starts out with an island, no 1-drop. Looks like he does have 2 more islands and then a smattering of spells, so he's going to have enough to play, but maybe doesn't have that aggressive start he might have hoped for.
Yep. I can't really get a look at how reactive Will's hand is right now, but he's got to do something on the first couple of turns.
Right. Especially with a tempo strategy like this, it's oftentimes plays like in the same way a Legacy Delver deck would play, where you get 1 or 2 threats out and then protect them. Military Intelligence is the next play. On a 0 creature board, not too impressive.
And I believe Barry had just scryed a Golgari Charm to the top of the deck too, so.
All right then.
Not great in a number of respects.
Sylvan Caryatid is Barry's response. We'll see what kind of creatures Will can muster up. He also drew his Bident of Thassa here, but does have Thassa herself. So now with cards like Bident and Military Intelligence at the ready, it is possible that he can he can just scry his way to creatures and go from there.
And it's possible Thassa is a bit of a weak spot for Barry's list. I mean, he doesn't really have any ways to get it off the table.
Yeah, I don't believe he has anything like Unravel the Aether, which would be the go-to card to get rid of it. Yeah, he does not play any copies of that, so this Thassa's here to stay. However, Barry's hand not too bad. He goes ahead and plays Courser of Kruvix, then plays a Scryland, sees a Liliana on top of the deck, decides to place her on the bottom, and now he's set up to draw another Caryatid next turn instead.
But Will's going to have his work cut out for him this game. I mean, Barry's hand is loaded with removal. Even if he's able to grind this Thassa and start, you know, smoothing out his draw sum and finding threats, it's still going to be tough.
Yeah, I don't think he can get all the way up to 5 Devotion without getting a creature to stick. You know, he can play Bident here, and that would get him to 4, but that's about where that train ends. So he's going to have, like, as long as Barry has creature removal, he can keep the Thassa inactive. Right now, Will is deciding on his Scry. Would love to have something like Nightveil Spectre. He does have a Negate in hand, so he has a little bit of protection. but he may not have enough lands to continue casting spells and hold up Negate. Negate may come at the cost of his whole turn.
That's the tough thing here is Will needs to find action, not lands. But until he finds lands, he can't play a threat with Negate back up. So he's in a bit of a rock and a hard place here. He can just play the waiting game, but I'm sure Barry's thrilled to play a waiting game.
Well, as we saw in game 2, if they both just get to draw cards, that's a situation that does favor Barry. As when Barry draws because when he draws a planeswalker like a Garruk or a Xenagos, he can simply play it, whereas Will is waiting to play those kinds of spells. And he's going to go ahead and make Night Veil Spectre get the immediate devotion and crash for 5, sending Barry down to 16. Just get that activation in while you can.
Yep.
No 4th land for Will that turn. And Sylvan Carrier to the draw for Barry. We would assume a kill spell of some sort is coming for Night Veil Spectre. I don't think Barry can reasonably let that guy stay in play. It would draw a card off Military Intelligence. It would possibly chop a card off his deck. It's all sorts of bad if that.
Yeah, Barry's got to take care of this right now.
And he has it seems like he has a lot of options as to how he chooses to take care of it. He's going to go with Abrupt Decay. Looks like he also has Hero's Downfall in his hand. Swings Courser across and makes another Sylvan Caryatid to block with. Barry did miss his land drop that turn, so that Caryatid kind of fulfilled the role of land drop. Both players stuck on 3.
So Will got to take a good shot with Thassa last turn, but it's hard to imagine him being able to consistently get to 5 devotion with Thassa in play against all the removal that Barry has at this point.
It's possible that if Barry does not have a Golgari Charm, that Will could just play Bident and start forcing Barry's things to suicide into Thassa. It's not really a typical line, though, that you see out of Mono Blue.
Well, what's nice about getting the Bident into play is that means now you have 4 devotion in play that's fairly stable. So you start threatening in a Thassa attack with any of your creatures at that point, which is a better world that than he's in right now, where it basically has to be Night Veil or some mixture of cards to get Thassa to 5 devotion.
He's going to start out with, looks like he's going to make some creatures. He has a Cloudfin Raptor. His hand is Cloudfin Raptor, Bident, Judge's Familiar, Negate. So now it's Bident, Bird, and Negate. And he is definitely planning to keep up that Cloudfin Raptor. It looks like what he wants to do next turn, if he can, is tap for Bident, then attack, draw a card.
Yeah.
Off Military Intelligence. Barry's going to go ahead and attack with the Courser. Will's just going to have to take that. He drops down to 16, so we have 16 all. Will he see a tap out? Not necessarily. A second Courser crew fix is made for Barry.
That's fine, though. Just getting any sort of pressure on Will forces the action, which is all Barry really needs to concern himself with.
Well, double Courser, actually, I would say the life gain that it represents is not trivial.
Yeah.
And now we'll see what Will does. Is it Bident? Did he hit the land for it? Otherwise, he has Judge's Familiar. Maybe if he hit another 1-drop, he could do that. Like I said, he would love to activate Thassa this turn and swing both creatures. So it is a bit of a dream scenario. And remember, maybe he knows Mizzy Immortus is waiting on top as well.
Although Will does have a Judge's Familiar he's picked up in the intervening turns here. He didn't play it last turn because he was trying to leave up Negate mana. So he has some protection at least from things going too wrong this turn.
Right now, Barry checking Military Intelligence. This is one of the I think newer additions. We've seen a couple players try this out in Mono Blue. It does have an advantage over Bident that 1, it is cheaper, and 2, that it is not legendary. If Will was playing a double Bident version here, he'd rather just have a Bident stranded in his hand. Interesting card. We have seen it in, I saw a player in a Slivers list using this card as well. He's going to see if he can do it. He plays Judge's Familiar. That is Devotion number 4. It's going to evolve Cloudfin Raptor. And Tidebinder Mage, he's going for full devotion here. Evolving Cloudfin Raptor, turning on Thassa. Tapping Courser. And we'll see, did he do it? Did he get the card draft Military Intelligence? And we'll check to see if this was played before the attack step. I would assume it is.
Yeah.
But it's only going to snag a Judge's Familiar because of how Will sequences. He can counter it, keep his devotion, and this is some really heads-up playing by Will here.
Yeah, he's played the game pretty well to get to this spot.
Interestingly, so what do you think about this? When Will first played the Judge's Familiar, if you were Barry, should have you Golgari Charmed? I guess that just doesn't matter. You only ever had 2 mana. If he wanted to get it, he could get it.
Yeah, the plays that he could do, he could, in response to the Judge's Familiar, go ahead and
kill the Cloudfin.
Or the Military Intelligence.
Yeah, so if you kill the Cloudfin there, then Will doesn't get to attack. As is, he got 1 bonus card off Military Intelligence. And Will knows that this could be bad if Barry has that. If there's a land hiding here as the next card, Barry could. Yeah, and Will's be pretty happy there. If there was a land hiding as the next card, Barry could have played it and overloaded Mizium Mortars.
Yeah, which is really bad. Although, that being said, Barry still has access to multiple removal spells this turn. I mean, he can still just pump the brakes on this.
Right.
By just playing Mortars and Hero's Downfall, for example, on the 2 creatures that Will has in play.
Yeah, I mean, Will's not out of the woods, but had Barry found that 6th land, I think Will would have been a pretty big hole, actually.
Oh, it's much worse. It's much worse, but that being said, Barry still has a backup plan here.
Yeah, we're going to see Barry fire off some removal spells, would be my guess. He doesn't want Will to draw Judge's Familiar. He doesn't want Will to untap for Negate. There's a bunch of reasons to play all these instants main phase.
Rapid Hyperization. There's a...
Right.
Yeah. Just don't get fancy against Mono Blue. When the shields are down, go cast your stuff. Yeah, it only gets worse allowing them to untap.
I actually, when I started playing Blue-White, I had trouble initially with a Mono Blue matchup until I had to change my philosophy of playing it. I originally would try to do tricky things, leave open removal, and then I started playing the match where every game main phase, I just jammed every kill spell immediately when I could. And then I started winning more, and I was like, oh, I see. Okay, they're far too tricky for me. And you'd be like, oh, you're tapped out, turn 2, they play Judge's Familiar on turn 1, I'd be like, all right, last breath it.
Yep.
Yep, right now.
Don't mess around. Giving them mana is always bad.
And he is going to go for that double kill spell. Takes care of Tidebinder Mage, takes care of Cloudfin Raptor. And Will is back down to that Thassa and Military Intelligence. I'm curious how many turns he can continue to activate Thassa. I imagine he'll want to find a 4th land at some point here. He hasn't found one yet, though. That Biden's still hanging out in his hand. Looks like he has found another Cloudfin Raptor. He does have Negate up here, but I don't know how much use that will be. The draw was caryatid for Barry Smith. He still, removal-wise, he still has 1 Hero's Downfall in his hand.
Finally hits a land off of these coursers.
Yeah, and that's so big, right? He goes up to 11, gets to scry another courser to the bottom. Coursers have a tendency to have diminishing returns.
But
can't imagine he'll keep it.
I don't know if that's true. Barry just may want attackers, and he knows that Will has negates in his deck. So a 2/4 for 3 is not the worst card to draw right here.
Yeah, okay, so what do you think? You think he keeps it then?
I think Courser's better than his average draw right now.
So then the question would be, do you need a better draw in this game? Yeah, it's above, sure, it's above average. That might agree, but if it's not good enough, you still ship, right? But it may be good enough here.
It feels like it's good enough. Will's going to fall to 10 from this attack, most likely.
By playing
Next turn, you're going to cast it. You have 2 removal spells left over in your hand.
Okay, so he leave up the Downfall and cast it the next turn.
Yeah.
It's on top of the deck, you can. Right.
He has Downfall, Putrefy in hand, so.
And you're absolutely right. He's going to keep it on top.
I mean, it looks a little goofy. I get that.
Yeah, you're not generally winning by by 2 aggro with 2/4s, but this game you are, right? You can gain enough life to actually just win this race.
I'm not really that interested in running drawing a Garruk and running it into a negate in this spot.
Secretly, Barry's deck is all Courser of Krufix and Sylvan Caryatids. And Scrylands, removal spells, Courser's Caryatids. That's it.
Like the best recipe against mono blue when you can cover their big cards like Master of Waves and so forth is just attack them and force to react on their own turn. When you allow them to get fancy with their tricks and counter spells and so forth, that's when you're gonna get yourself into some serious trouble. So while you're applying pressure, just get more pressure into play.
And Will, you can see, trying to figure out how he's going to navigate this. Originally, you don't plan to get counter raced by these guys, but it's starting to become a reality. Looks at his hand, it has a Master of Waves, a Negate, and a Bident. If this card's not an island, you almost feel like he has to ship it, right?
Yeah, he's got to take land number 4.
Yep, and it is land number 4. So how do you start then? Do we start with Master? Do we start, does it matter? Do you play Bident? All right, jam the best card.
Yep.
Let's go for it. Master of Waves is the play. That is actually not enough devotion to turn on Thassa, however.
And this is just going to eat some sort of removal spell here also.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Will, what, the advantage is that you got to double evolve Cloudfin when you did this?
Yeah.
That was your prize. Master's gonna make a bunch of creatures. Actually, if Barry downfalls in response to this trigger, then the Cloudfin would only evolve once.
Yep.
So I do think Barry missed a slight opportunity there. It could be a 1-2 Cloudfin instead of a 2-3. As long as Barry is committed to downfalling the Master.
Which is significant because now Will has a 2-3 blocker.
Exactly, instead of a 1-2. So now he has something that can block coursers.
Yeah.
Remember, the reason that would happen would be because once the tokens are made, if the Master's no longer there, they are 1-0s instead of 2-1s. So they would not be able to provide that additional evolve for a 1-2. But Barry's going to continue the Pillarfield Ox aggro. 4 more in. Oh, and here comes the lethal Ox. It's Ox number 3.
It's not flashy work, but it is noble work.
This is ranks among some of my least favorite ways to win a game of Magic.
I got some 0-3s holding down the fort while my 2-4s go to work.
I'm slowly playing 2 4s, and I'm valuing you a bunch. And then I took some green creatures, and I hit you with it like 6 times. Oh, man.
Well, Barry's kind of drawing
Where's the
cards.
excitement?
Courser is kind of drawing cards. You got to be okay with that.
It just draws more creatures. Or like removal spells. I like removal spells. They're fine.
I'm trying to think of what my favorite card is that Barry has in play because I'm struggling. I guess it's Temple
There's
of Ballas.
only 2 of them, right?
I guess Temple of Ballas is probably the card I would be most inclined to play.
See, if Course of Krufix was Oracle of Moldiah, then I'd be a huge fan.
Sure.
Oh, that card's sweet. You just go through your deck at lightning speed with that card. Ramping, drawing, that's great. I like Courser because he's kind of like a cantrip. That's my favorite part of the card, is that he's just more deck, like, if you have him and Scrylands and, you know, Ponders and Preordains, it's like cheating.
The issue, of course, is ultimately you have to draw more green creatures or removal spells or...
Well, I've started playing him in Modern in my Scapeshift list. He is a 2-of, and he's the only creature in the deck.
Sure.
Which I like that, you know, okay, because he's not actually a creature. He's just like this ability that sometimes gets me some extra cards that, all right, yeah, that's cool. But he's doing something entirely fair here. They like care about the fact that he attacks. You know, they care about the life gain.
Oh, it's hard to imagine a much more fair deck than the one that Barry has brought to the table this weekend. He may very well win the tournament. You know, it's no slight on his
Paying
deck. But
full cost for every spell.
it is imminently fair.
See, I like Master Waves. That's a card that's not fair, right? He's what? Sometimes it's like 14 power for 4 mana. That's a little above the curve.
It has moments.
Right.
It has moments.
It has the potential to be real unfair. And that third courser is a thorn in Will's side. I'm not sure how he gets around this, especially not, I mean, Barry's just valuing him out of the game, really.
Yeah, the mortars on top is just
You can see that
the
Will.
worst case scenario here.
Right. He's gotten to scry every turn, but Barry's drawing extra cards. He's not scrying them. And that looks like it's going to be the difference. And Barry Smith's deck I think, has proven to be pretty good at dismantling aggro decks. He was able to do it to Justin Growroot in the top 8. And it looks like he's going to do it to Will Erker in the top 4. And the third aggro deck in our top 8 is waiting for him in the finals, so we'll see if he can do it a third time.
Yeah, well, Will's draw here in the third game was a lot of setting up of shop and not very much, here's just some creatures I'm casting and attacking you,
Yeah,
know?
well, he mulled to 6, and he mulled to 6, I think, based on the strength of, hey, I do have, at least I have a turn 3 Thassa.
No, I think the Thassa was drawn. Regardless, I'm not saying that Will should have mulliganed or not mulliganed his initial 7 or whatever the case may be, but these are the kind of draws, you know, yeah, you got your fancy stuff, and maybe you have some card advantage engines that you're setting up, but Barry can pretty easily pick that kind of stuff apart once he's made his land drops.
Well, right, his first play was a turn 2 military intelligence, which against a guy who's trying to kill all your creatures, he could stop that from being a card fairly easily if you don't have creatures immediately with it.
Now, to his credit, Will was able to navigate the game in such a way where he was able to draw 1 card off of military intelligence, and I didn't think that even that was going to happen.
I thought when he did that, I was like, all right, hey, you cantripped it. That's you're already way above expectation. Nightveil Spectre is the play here. It's going to activate Thassa. Well, it would if Barry did not once again have another kill spell. No, it still activates Thassa, but Will's not going to get to draw the card.
Yeah, he knows that Mortars is on top now, so he doesn't really care about...
Mortars,
he gets to shut off military intelligence this turn.
Mortars will kill the Spectre.
Thassa attacks for 5, who cares? Yeah.
There you have it. Will, with that negate, even for the matchup, never, because of, I think, the mulligan, the situation was actually never able to cast the negate. Barry Smith, 2-1. He's on to the finals here.
And that's the card that I would have predicted would have been his highest impact sideboard card, was the negate. Part of that was he was a little bottlenecked on mana, but still, just could never quite get out in front enough to force Barry to play into Will's tricks. And Barry is moving on to the finals as a result.
Yeah, so 2-1. Barry has in 3 defeated